the evisceration of his chest cavity and abdomen, and to top
Oh
it
my
all off,
gosh.
multiple dismemberments, which included
He got wowie woo. Hello and meowdy YouTube! Welcome back to another video. My name is Saphwyn, this is the NochuVTuber, and today we are watching Ziehefzie, the most brutal human deaths ever discovered. So this is a trigger warning. It might get gruesome. This is your warning. I'm not 100% sure. I've never watched this video before. It is Ziehefzie, so it will be fantastic. I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. And hi, hello. If you're new to my channel, we are on the road to 100K subs. So if you would like to join in on the journey, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I react to a variety of content. I went to school, I did biology, I worked in the biology field. So if this sounds like a good time, if you want to check out all my content, go check out the channel, subscribe to the channel, and let's dive on into the video. Oh, I don't have my Bang Boo either. Bang Boo. Sorry.
Ever heard of the show 1,000 Ways to Die?
Yes?
Well, if you take a look at our 300,000 years of history, you'll soon come to realize that 1,000 isn't nowhere close to cutting it. Try more like 1,000,000, if even that's enough. And through
dumb ways to die. I'm sorry.
the ages, people have had to endure some pretty painful demises, some of which were definitely worse than others. But thankfully, thanks to technology and general progress, horrific endings are becoming less common than they used to be.
That's good.
Especially because of just how tough ancient Earth was compared to now. And we can only guess what kind of bowl our ancestors had to go through. But once in a while, we don't have to, as occasionally, researchers will get really lucky at the expense of a seriously unfortunate individual. And we get to see firsthand some of the catastrophic injuries that
not ooh, like an ooh. I'm not saying ooh to the skeleton. I'm saying like ooh, how fascinating. See, this is the weird thing. A lot of people who watch stuff like this might be cringing and be like, oh my god, that's so disgusting. I will not do that here. I find all this fascinating. I enjoy a majority of this. We will have a great time and we will be immersed within this topic. This is your warning.
ancient people had to endure, and sometimes even survived. But the first case definitely wasn't a survive kind of situation. And unfortunately, is a mode of death still within the realm of possibility, as it was a shark attack. But not just any old shark attack, but rather the first conclusive one recorded in history.
Interesting.
An achievement that certainly nobody wants to have, but nonetheless goes to a 3,400-year-old hunter-gatherer from Japan, simply dubbed Tsukumo 24. The discovery was made in 2021 off the coast of the Seto Inland Sea, where researchers located a male human skeleton in really rough condition, being absolutely covered in lacerations that spread across his arms, chest, abdomen, and hands. Originally, researchers were quite horrified and confused, as they were so deep that they marked bone, and matched what was seen in wounds caused by metal weapons.
I think it's so amazing how far technology, I know technology has also come in the other way. It's come so far in a good way, and it's come so far in a freaking bad way, right? But it's always fascinating to see how well technology can be applied to things like this. And like back then, we didn't have technology like that. And for it to be a 2021 discovery too is fascinating.
Or non-metal tools like a stone knife. What's more is that they weren't just looking at a few cuts, and not even a dozen or two, but instead over 500, 790 to be precise. And what made everything all the more weird was that the man belonged to the Jomon culture, in which metalwork was absent, meaning it wasn't some deranged serial killer that had caused this with a metal weapon. Therefore, they took another look at the injuries, and noticed this time around that they were V-shaped and identical to those seen in modern-day shark attacks. This, in conjunction to his location, which was on an archipelago, led to the conclusion that a large tiger shark or great white had killed him, and it really did a number on him during the attack, administering multiple injuries that were fatal within their own right, including the fracture or tearing of every rib, the evisceration of his chest cavity and abdomen, and to top it all off, multiple dismemberments, which included—
He got wowie woo. He got torn apart. I mean, like, and look how lucky some people get. Unfortunately, some people die when they get attacked by sharks still nowadays. The people who can survive a shark attack, oh my gosh, you know what? That's incredible.
Feet and left hand.
I'm so sorry,
These missing extremities also helped to tell researchers that the poor bloke was alive in the initial attack, since he likely used his hands and feet to defend himself, during which they were then bit off. This got rid of the possibility of the whole thing being a scavenging event as opposed to an attack, but led to a new question of why the shark had attacked him in the first place, as it was his left leg that bore the most deep bites, heavily implying an unprovoked ambush attack. And the answer was hidden in his bizarre final resting place. Opposed to being found at sea, as one would expect, or in a place that was once submerged, the victim was found in a traditional burial site, and his bodies did not show signs of being in the water for long, meaning that he likely wasn't alone at the time of the attack.
Oh, so
and
they
given that the
saved
Joman
him.
people were exceptional fishers,
Hold on. They didn't save him, but they like recovered him.
The current belief is that a group of people had gone out on a boat to catch fish. At some point during the fishing excursion, the unlucky man had left the boat and got into the water to perhaps spearfish or to simply bring up a catch, not knowing that the spilled blood in the water had attracted a shark, which then swiftly attacked him. Seeing he was in danger and under attack, the others that were with him then came to the rescue and pulled him up, but it was already too late, and the only thing they could do was bury him, as he likely died well before reaching the shore. Now, if you're planning a trip to Japan, don't panic quite yet. Yes, there are still sharks there now, but the situation was much dicier back then, with a number of known shark teeth implying that their populations were significantly higher than they are now.
I should also say, too, this goes back if you are new here. Hi, hello, this is a common discussion. If you're old here, you probably know exactly what I'm going to say. Hollywood portrays sharks in such a poor way as well. They portray sharks as man killers, and it's like, no. Yes, they will attack. Yes, they are attracted to blood. If you're hunting, etc., 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 they can attack. These are all scenarios, but these are all scenarios with every single freaking wild animal encounter. When there was a statistic, I don't know how old the statistic was, but like more vending machines killed people than more sharks, to put that in perspective.
And this is also reflected by the Joman culture, which features multiple art pieces that depict various sharks, namely hammerheads and tiger sharks. So it's likely that attacks were much more common back then. Now clearly, this particular incident had a rather regrettable ending, but not all horrific injuries ended so poorly, as sometimes ancient humans not only survived traumatic wounds, but even thrived afterwards, as best showcased by the world's oldest known amputation, which dates back to 31,000 years ago. For a long time, researchers have been well aware that amputations occurred before modern medicine, but previously, the oldest
I don't even want to think. This poor soul who went through the first amputation, I don't even want to think about the pain. Like, we have so much medical and, you know, anesthesia. We have so much going on now. 31,000 years ago, they didn't have any of that. Like, I don't know what this boy was on. I feel bad for him.
Was only 7,000 years old, involving a Neolithic farmer from Europe. So everyone was pretty excited when in 2020, a group of scientists stumbled upon a much older specimen in Borneo that bore signs of a successful amputation.
Guys, we remake this video in another 5 years. It's going to be a whole completely new video.
The individual in question was found in the Liang Tibo cave, and notably was missing its left leg and foot. At first, there was an idea that it was lost in some traumatic accident, which then possibly killed the individual. Yet researchers noticed that not only was the wound extremely clean, but it was also healed and seemed purposeful, and the rest of the leg was partially withered and child-sized, while the specimen overall was clearly a young adult, making an amputation as a child the likeliest scenario. Now, because this took place over 30,000 years ago, painkillers were probably absent, and the amputation would have occurred with a sharpened stone tool, and yet somehow, the ancient surgeon not only managed to finesse their way around veins, arteries, nerves, and tissues.
Oh my gosh, I have like shivers and goosebumps all over my body thinking about this.
But kept the area completely free of infection, a feat still impressive by modern standards, as some studies report an infection rate of up to 40% after major amputations. And the prehistoric individual went on to survive into adulthood, only dying in their 20s from something unrelated and currently unknown. But now, this all begs the question, why did they need an amputation in the first place? A possible idea is that it had something to do with the area that they lived, as the terrain surrounding the cave is extremely rugged, elevated, and littered with large rocks and cliffs. Therefore, the person could have taken a particularly nasty fall or got hit by a rock that mangled their leg to the point that amputation was necessary. And while it's thought that they survived for nearly a decade after the incident, it would not have been easy, as they still needed to navigate a mountainous area with just one leg. And therefore, they must have relied quite a bit on others for care, demonstrating one of the earlier cases of human compassion. But alas, we also know that humans in the past, and present for that matter, can be quite cruel. And you'd know this all too well if you saw my recent video about the Neolithic bottleneck. That was a period of unusually cruel violence, which could
and that sounds like we have a new video to go watch later.
be downright horrifying, to say the least. And one of the worst cases of it was seen in the girls of St. Paul Troy, Chateau,
no.
France. This grisly discovery involved 3 women who were found buried together back in the 80s, but dated to about 5,500 years ago. And only recently did scientists unveil that a cruel sacrificial ritual had taken place.
Oh my god.
In total,
and okay, just think. I know you guys probably don't want to think about this, but just think. These are 3 discoveries that were found. Imagine how many souls suffered through all of this.
3 victims were found, and yet 2 of them were buried in very contorted positions and stuffed into very tight spaces, while being completely covered by heavy grindstones,
That's so
likely
sad.
meant to keep them down and from moving, signifying that these 2 had been buried alive and against their will.
Yeah, they were probably 5,500 years ago. Not, you know what? Probably still applicable. I was about to say they were probably witches, because apparently that was a big trend, as we all know, right? But being buried alive is so cruel.
Furthermore, the positions of their arms and legs suggested that while decayed now, a rope had at some point not only bound them, but tied their legs to their necks, causing them to involuntarily strangle themselves. And coincidentally, mirroring a torturous killing tactic sometimes used by the Italian mafia, named incapacitamento. However, while mafias do it today for revenge against traitors, these Neolithic murders were some sort of agricultural sacrifice. As they were
if only we knew what went on in history way back when. I know that's the point of history, and it's like we try to relearn history so we don't repeat history, and there's so much more to history. As you guys know, I'm not the biggest history nerd, I should say. I enjoy it. I don't deep dive into it like I have with biology, right? So as much as I enjoy it, it's always a thought in my head. I'm like, yo, what if something was different way back when, and we'll never know?
Mimicked a silo grain. And the 3rd woman was buried on top of them, unbound, and above the stones, presumably for symbolic purposes. The location was also quite peculiar, as it was built in a way that during the solstice,
this is wild,
the sun would shine directly onto the silo. So in other words, whoever was behind this was quite twisted, yet unarguably well organized.
Of
now,
course.
less organized, but more strange and rare killing took place not so long before this. However, this incident occurred on the other side of the world and involved the only known prehistoric sapien to be found in a tar pit, the La Brea woman. In case you didn't know, Los Angeles is home to the La Brea tar pits, which is actually an active paleontology site that has served as a predator trap for tens of thousands of years, as animals who got stuck in the sticky tar would in turn attract many unknowingly doomed carnivores. And it is believed to be up to 50,000 years old. And through the years, paleontologists have recovered thousands of iconic Ice Age specimens, like direwolves, ground sloths, saber-toothed cats, American lions, mammoths, mastodons, and then primates. Or rather,
just imagine all the things that are in this tar pit. Holy!
A primate.
LA's first murder.
To be specific, a lone woman. Believed to have been between 18 to 30 years old at death, the La Brea woman is a well-preserved skeleton that consists of cranium, mandible, and postcranial material.
Crazy.
In life, she likely stood around 4 feet 10 inches, or 1.5 meters tall, and lived some 10,000 years ago. Or based on her dentistry, she sustained herself on a diet heavy in stone ground meal that apparently led to tooth issues and could have caused quite a bit of pain in life.
Oh no.
But putting all that to the side, the biggest issue obviously had to do with her being buried in the tar pit.
Correct.
You see, this was quite odd, as Paleo-Indians
and the thing is too, how many other people are buried in this tar pit? Because I don't know how big this tar pit is. I don't know the size of it, right? But if it's any massive, there's probably so many people in there.
We're well aware that such a pit was dangerous and best to be avoided, which led researchers to suspect that she had a rather nefarious helping hand in ending up there. And upon further examination, they did indeed find that her jaw had actually been broken, while her skull had been fractured and possessed a small hole in it, indicative of a powerful strike. And not one that came from an animal, but rather from a quote-unquote fellow human. Which, if accurate, would make her LA's oldest known murder victim, given the age of the skeleton. And though highly debated, it's been hypothesized that given the location, that she had belonged to the Chumash people. Yet why she was attacked is not known, nor if the attack came from her own group, over personal discourse,
never know,
or if it originated from a hostile party that was looking for resources and potentially viewed her as a threat.
See, this is the thing from history. We can piece together things really well, and I mean phenomenally well. We can piece things together, but at the end of the day, we will 100% never actually know. We can be like 99.9% sure that this happened in this sequence of events, but not 100.
Even though her wounds were almost 100% guaranteed to be fatal, given the level of medicine at the time, it's not clear if she had died first and then was dumped in the tar pit, or if she was thrown in there while wounded, but actually died from sinking under and suffocating in the tar. Now, obviously, neither are good ways to go.
No.
And honestly, I'm not sure if I'd rather get bonked or drown. And unfortunately, though, we know that definitely happened with another specimen.
I'm just praying if you get bonked into the tar pit, I'm praying that you're unconscious before you drown in the tar pit. That's my thought theory.
Known as the first modern human that we know of to have drowned. And ironically, he did so in one of the driest places on Earth, the Atacama Desert.
What?
This harsh and unforgiving region is found in Chile and is perhaps the oldest desert on the planet. Meaning that at any rate, this Neolithic man who dated to 5,500 years ago still lived in the area when it was absolutely bone dry. Yet his body was found in a round stone structure on top of seashells, which does kind of make sense because he lived on the coast, meaning that water was accessible. Originally, scientists weren't sure what happened to him, as he wasn't super old, being about 35 to 45 years old at the time of his death. And he didn't have any clear fatal injury or disease either. However, because he lived close to the sea and was buried with lots of shells, there was a thought that he drowned. But how does one figure out if a 5,000-year-old plus man drowned or didn't with just bones? And surprisingly, you take a look at those bones and look for diatoms, which is basically any member of a large group comprising of several genera of algae. And alas, diatoms were indeed found in his skeleton, implying that he drowned. And let's just say, that's a very unpleasant sign, because the only way that diatoms can end up in one's bones is that you inhale water such that when it reaches the lungs, your pulmonary alveoli rupture, where then salt water rushes into your bloodstream before making it into your bone marrow, and hence the presence of these algae. So, a very brutal ending for an already harsh life. As it turns out, the man was already in very poor condition, showing signs of having arthritis, bad enough to damage his bones. And his legs are roughed up as well, suggesting a life spent.
But the thing is true, I don't know if you guys saw if you guys watched my dinosaur video when we were looking at diseases that killed the dinosaur video, that they linked cancer and like leukemia. I think it was specifically leukemia within like the dinosaurs from way back when. And they used to think that those bones were arthritis as well, but upon further discovery and comparing them to other like bones and traumas and stuff, they figured out that it was actually a form of leukemia. So now I'm wondering like how many past events too that we didn't know about now might have to be re-looked at for like a disease or something like that as well.
Squatting, perhaps to harvest shells, while his arms and shoulders were further messed up, reflecting a life rich in swimming, rowing, and harpooning, which matches the assumption that he was part of a coastal community. And you know, just for a cherry on top, he also appeared to be extremely iron deficient, an ailment that was chalked up to a severe tapeworm infection, which can be common in mishandled fish. And just to make everything a tad bit more tragic, it turns out that he did not die alone, but with 3 others. Another male, an adult female, and even 1 infant. Radiocarbon found that all 4 had died at the same time. But how, you might ask? Well, they lived in a very seismic area, and so it's believed that an earthquake and then a subsequent tsunami is what did them in. But what's rather peculiar is that when they tested the rest of the skeletons for diatoms, they found none, heavily suggesting that unlike the man, they had not drowned. And so now, while it's still possible that an earthquake had killed them from the non-drowning related dangers, it is now less likely that a tsunami and earthquake is what did them in. And the current hypothesis is that the man just accidentally drowned, maybe while diving down to forage, while the others just happened to die around the same time and location from other causes.
They were probably just trying to get food, right?
The Atacama Desert was and is a very grueling place, where it can be hot, cold, and very, very dry.
Deserts are actually, people think deserts are so temperamental and just like chillin', but deserts are so freaking deadly. When you dive into the weather and the system of a desert, some people just are like, oh, desert, it's warm. And all like that, the cold and the hot and the cold and the hot, deadly.
That Earth back then was also just in general tough, disregarding location. And sometimes we humans made it more painful than it already was and had to be. I mean, just take a look at this guy, or this girl, or really any of the other 38 humans found in France with holes in their skulls. What you're looking at is not a mass murder crime scene or even warfare, but rather a poor attempt at surgery, also known as trepanning, which, as the skulls show, involved drilling a hole into one's head, and was perhaps Homo sapiens' first widespread surgery. Unfortunately, the site in France specifically dates to about 6,500 BC, making it one of the oldest, if not the first cases of trepanning that we know of. But it was by no means isolated, and multiple sites have been found with evidence of this strenuous procedure, supplying us with an abundance of brutal fossils, with some studies even suggesting that up to 10% of all Neolithic people underwent this treatment.
10%?
If you can call it that. And
imagine being the first person. Okay, so once you get more skulls, you can start piecing together a story. But imagine whatever scientist, whoever found the first skull, or the first few, I should say, that had this huge ass hole in their head. I wonder what they were thinking. I wonder when they found this, what their initial thought was. Like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to go find this paper and see if they say it, because I'm so curious. Like, what?
Closer to 33%. And given the super high rates, you'd assume it was pretty safe.
No.
But no. It's about what you'd expect from drilling a hole in your head.
Yes.
And less than 40% of the skulls showed any signs of healing, meaning more than 60% died, with the main ways of death likely being infection, blood loss, and of course, trauma to the brain if the surgeon went too deep. And even if they were in the metaphorical clear, healing was no joke, often taking several months for the area to close up. And even then, it was likely you'd still feel awful. Plus, the
worst part is true that this kept happening. Like, it wasn't a one and done. It was we'll keep doing it, doing it, doing it, doing it, doing it.
The surgery itself, which definitely took place with no painkillers or anesthesia.
Yeah.
Now, to do the surgery, it's thought that sharpened stone knives, or in some cases even seashells, were used to carry out the procedure. And people at virtually every age were found having done this. And so, looking at the widespread nature of this procedure, you might ask, what was the purpose of this?
I don't know.
Well, basically anything, according to some. Potential reasons included spiritual purposes, treatment for epilepsy, relieving head wounds, which were more common at the time, courtesy of ourselves.
Imagine getting a migraine and this is what you have to go do.
Or could have been done for something as simple as a headache. So basically, if you wake up in ancient times and you have a throbbing migraine, best to keep that to yourself.
Don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone.
And perhaps surprisingly, or maybe unsurprisingly, this surgery remained popular for quite some time.
That's crazy.
And actually is still carried out today, just with a bit more precision and only done in select cases. Not to mention, we now have much better management for the procedure and pain. And speaking of pain,
we're not just jamming a tool in someone's head and calling it a day. Because I don't know the history of medical. I don't think they had stitches way back then either. Unless if they did, but oh my god, I'm flabbergasted.
Left behind too.
Crazy.
Of course, it's still a thing.
Oh my god. Okay.
But I more mean that life used to be so much more harsh and agonizing due to lesser technology. I mean, just ask the girl of Uchter Moor, affectionately known as Mura by some. She is an Iron Age specimen that is also a bog body. In other words, a human that was found and sometimes naturally mummified within a peat bog. And just in case you're wondering what that is, it is a wetland that has accumulated peat, surprise surprise, and other decayed organic material. Now, Mura was originally located in the year 2000, and her founders actually thought that she had been a girl that went missing after visiting a club many decades before. But after doing some testing, they realized that she was in reality a 1,000-plus-year-old skeleton who had lived in Iron Age Germany, and despite only being around 17 to 19, had endured more pain than most in their lifetime. Just about every bit of her body had some sort of damage to it. And even looking at it as a whole, researchers concluded that she must have led a life of intense physical labor, probably consisting of carrying heavy loads like water jugs as she routinely navigated through the marshlands. Then her head had not one, but two severe fractures that had healed over, demonstrating brain injuries that might have come from attacks by hostile people or even people within her own community, with her shape reflecting blunt impacts.
Oh, shit.
And we do know that head trauma and violence were a bit more common during the Iron Age. But at any rate, she definitely survived that specific ordeal. Yet she likely suffered from frequent headaches and potentially other neurological symptoms.
Well, if you have like if she's scavenging and she has other neurological anything going on, the minute she passes out while she's scavenging, if she's in a bog, she smacks her head, no one's going to find her. And then she ends up in the bog for the rest of her life. That's where she passes away.
Like she couldn't catch a break.
Oh my god.
Because she also appeared to have a benign tumor at the base of her skull that likely just compounded on her already existing headaches, while also causing a curvature in her spine, leading to back pain and chronically inflamed legs, which was severe enough to alter her bones. And while her own body seemed to be against her, so did the environment, as there were further signs that during harsh winters, she endured frequent periods of sickness and in her childhood had chronic malnutrition, reflected by the unusual morphology of her bones. So in other words, each day would have been a challenge for her. even if she didn't have to do anything, let alone survive during the Iron Age. And she clearly did not last long, because even 19 was considered below the life expectancy, which at that point hovered at around 26 years old. Now, we don't know what killed her, but it's believed that thankfully murder was off the table, considering that there are no clear signs. And right now, it's tentatively believed that she died in a freak accident.
Yeah,
however, one mystery that remains is that she was found alone and naked, with not even any objects or jewelry being associated with her, suggesting that someone had altered her body after death, and then presumably buried her into the bog. Which again makes one wonder, why? Why not just bury her on land?
Manslaughter.
And the answer is that maybe they were trying to hide something.
Oh my gosh.
And sadly, not even in death did Moore get a break. Because when she was recovered back in the day, it was done accidentally after a machine had scooped up her remains. But not before ripping them.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Imagine being like a construction worker. Oh my goodness.
To 100 different pieces that needed to be stitched back together.
Damn.
So with that example alone, I think we can conclude that life can really just be dang hard. Which is a fact shared by what is currently the first known victim of the plague. A 5,000-year-old hunter-gatherer from present-day Latvia. He showed signs of having died around the age of 20, and likely did so after being bitten and infected by a rodent. That unassuming bite would one day come to doom him, as it happened to be laced with a bacteria that humanity knows all too well, Yersinia pestis. In other words, the bacteria responsible for the plagues, like that of Justinian and the Black Death. So, not good. Now, when you get the plague, it usually comes in 3 different forms: pneumonic, septicemic, and bubonic. And while we don't know which one the man had, it clearly killed him. And unbeknownst to him, would proceed to kill over 100 million other people through the years.
Crazy.
Which is crazy. I mean, seriously, nature just seemed to be more messed up back then. And I already know I mentioned it, but we as humanity seem to follow that trend, especially during the Neolithic. And there's a buffet of mimed skeletons to choose from that time. And that pun is intended because many of them showed signs of cannibalism. Additionally, we also have nicely preserved specimens that show us that one could go through dismemberment, decapitation, being burned alive, stabbed, bludgeoned, shot with an arrow, or sometimes a combination of all these things together.
Yeah, all of
it. And
it.
Obviously, while violence still occurs, in many ways it is comparatively much more tamed in the present. And I should also mention, there is also the trend of doing this to large groups, as well over 100 mass murder sites are known from throughout the world, showcasing ancient man's enthusiasm for violence and creativity.
Please say you have a video on this one too.
Maybe the takeaway is that for all the flaws of the present,
on that one?
Maybe today isn't so bad after all. Thanks for watching, and until next time.
That one seems kind of cool too. Extinct Sue, guys, go subscribe to Extinct Sue right now. Original video is linked down below. That one kind of seems cool too. I don't know if he has it. I thought the video was fascinating. I hope you guys thought the video was fascinating. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, comment down a dinosaur emoji. It's extinct. We'll do a dinosaur emoji. And it shows appreciation, shows that you watched the video. I appreciate it a lot. And before you leave, if you want the uncut anime reactions and or my anime reactions, go check out the YouTube channel, Anime with Saphwyn, or go check out the Patreon, which is also the best way to support the channel. They are both linked down below. And I will catch you guys all on the flip side. Goodbye, goodbye.